Welcome to the CMO school. Nobody tells you when you start stepping into bigger leadership roles, the hardest thing is not the strategy or landing clients or even actually doing the work. It's owning your worth and charging what you're worth and actually believing that you are worthy. So if you've ever found yourself undercharging, over delivering, questioning whether you're good enough for the opportunities you want, or even feeling like success is hard, then this episode is for you. Because the truth is, it's not just about what you're doing, it's about what's happening underneath the surface, what your subconscious actually believes you deserve. Today's episode is a special one because I get to introduce you to someone who has profoundly changed my life and who I love so much. Jess Belsky is a transformational leadership coach, hypnotherapist, and CEO of Worth to Wealth International. She holds a master's in learning and organizational change from Northwestern University and a BA in psychology from George Washington University, and is a certified rapid transformational therapist specializing in subconscious reprogramming, communication, and emotional healing. Jess has worked with Fortune 100 executives, top entrepreneurs, and industry leaders, helping them rewire subconscious patterns that quietly shape their success, confidence, and leadership. I know this firsthand because when I started working with Jess, I thought I just needed help with money mindset. And what I didn't realize was how much deeper the work would go. My subconscious beliefs were influencing everything around how I saw myself, how I led, how I communicated, and even what I believed I was capable of. In this episode, we're diving into how your subconscious might be holding you back in ways you don't realize, the exact work Jess and I did together that changed everything for me and what you can learn from it, and how to rewire the beliefs that are keeping you stuck so success, confidence, and ease become your default. I'm so excited to talk about this because the shifts I've made through this work have completely changed my life and who I am and the way I show up. And I really want the same for all of my listeners. So let's dive in. Jess, welcome to CMO School, and I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you, Jess. It's so beautiful to be here with you too. What a sweet introduction. It just makes my heart feel full knowing that the work has changed your life. Working with you has been such a wonderful, wonderful journey for me too.
It's been amazing. And I know everyone who will listen, I will tell them about my experience working with you. So I'm really excited for this episode because it allows me to do this at scale. So anyone can hear my story and just how profoundly helpful and life-changing it's been working with you. So before we dig into that, I would love to have listeners hear a little more about your journey and what led you to this work. And I'm curious, did you always know you'd be doing this, or was there a moment where everything shifted?
I started studying psychology and human behavior around the age of 11. My mom got her master's in social work or almost completed it. And I was bullied as a kid. And she helped me understand what was happening to me through the lens of psychology and human behavior. So that's where I got turned on to it at a really young age. I was often found laying on the trampoline or sitting off in a corner having these deep conversations with other kids about some difficult life experience that they were having. I grew up in a rural community and I would have kids coming over all the time and just sitting there and talking about these hard things that were going on in their lives. And I think I've been a natural space holder and had that inclination since I was young. And I went on to study psychology in college, but then ended up finding sales. So my career kind of took a different direction for many years. I went into sales, selling advertising, print and digital advertising. Then I went ad agency side before one day I kind of woke up and I was like, wait a minute, I'm that person who puts the blinky ads on the internet. What have I done with my life? And it started an entire deeper exploration for me. And that's when I decided to go get my master's degree in learning and organizational change, where I studied how people, this kind of intersection between learning and transformation at the individual, organizational, and systemic level. And that's where I got my training as a coach. And I came out from there and went into management consulting, doing change management work, leadership development, and employee engagement work and communications for several years before I had an opportunity. I had a client who had just completed, and I was on the bench, as they say in the marketing world. And I was working with the coach at the time to start my own coaching business. I thought it would be a couple of years maybe before I really got it going. And I was like, this is my chance. So I jumped. I left with no clients, nothing. And I took a leap of faith. And within 90 days, I had 100 and something $1,000 in business. And since then, I have had multiple iterations of my own company. And I've done a lot of additional training and development. And I've found myself, even when I did career coaching for a time or straight leadership development coaching, always going back to what I call the deeper inner work. And
Mm.
that ends up being my story and my path. I discovered rapid transformational therapy, which is a form of hypnotherapy. I've done a lot of training and development around trauma healing and root cause work, internal family systems work, somatic healing work. And so now I bring this kind of integrated approach to my clients like you to help them really understand what's happening at the deeper levels of themselves so that they can address that and stop sabotaging themselves.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to share with you because I feel like inner work, mindset, phrases, they get thrown around a lot.
Mm.
And I think that there's often a misconception about what that is. What does that look like? What does it mean? But I've learned so much from you about what that is. And also, the funny thing is just where I was at when I started working with you and what I thought I was signing up for, what I thought I needed. And I don't, I'm excited to tell you this because I don't know if we've ever really talked about this, but I found you through a girl that I went to high school with named Kate. And she was putting on a weekend long virtual boot camp. And
Mhm.
I remember at the time I was on maternity leave, but I had decided I'm not going to go back to my full time corporate job. I'm going to do this. I'm going to start my own business. And I don't know what this means, what I'm going to do, but I just was kind of following these little nudges. And I just felt so strongly that I needed to be at her boot camp. But I think it was $2,000 or $1,000 or something. It was the most money I had ever invested in myself ever. And I just felt sick. That's so much money. Is it going to be
Mm.
worth it? And it's so funny because that to me was such a catalyst that just going to that workshop or that weekend and just even that decision, I reflect on what was going on for me internally when I was trying to make that decision and just how I felt pulled to do this investment, but scared. I remember saying to myself, I really want this. I know I can make this happen. So I found a contract doing something. I think it was someone's branding or stuff I don't even do now. And I just wanted the money so I could say, okay, I've got this money from this contract so I can pay for this, ticket to go to this virtual event. So I went to it and there was lots of great sessions. And one of the ones that I had remembered looking at in advance was yours. And it was around money mindset. And it said something about hypnosis for money mindset. And I had only had one experience with hypnosis before at my husband's Christmas party. It worked on him kind of, but not on me. And I also was kind of like, is this working? Are these people just being funny? I don't know. They're balking like chickens. And so there was a break in the weekend and I was upstairs just grabbing a snack and I was about to go back downstairs. And I said to Craig, like, all right, I'm going to go get hypnotized. Let's go see. I was like, this is not going to work. It's not going to do anything. I'm excited about money mindset because I want to make a bunch of money. I know I've got some shit that I've got to sort through. I went downstairs and it was this group of us. I think there's 100 and something
Yeah.
people on the call.
Yeah.
And I had headphones in. I was laying down in my spare room and you're on the screen on my computer. And you led us through like what I'm now deeply familiar with, your rapid transformational therapy. And for people listening who don't know what that is, I mean, I'll explain it. Jess, you'll probably do a better way of explaining it. But essentially, you like take us back to 3 core moments that make up our mindset and kind of our inner belief around something. And so for this, it was money. My experience with that was wild. Like I just remember laying there, eyes closed. I'm okay. I'm listening to all of this, and then you snapped your fingers, and I was viscerally in this memory from my childhood and I could see everything. I was remembering things like I hadn't thought about this moment in so long. And then the next one, same thing. The next one was actually a sadder moment for me, and I remember I was crying in that moment, and I instantly had tears. And it was almost switching the channel on a TV where I was in one moment viscerally, in the next, and I'm shortening the work and what goes into that. And maybe you can explain that a little bit more, but it was wild to me just how I was taken back to these things that I hadn't thought of in so long. And you allowed us to sort of be there. And I felt very safe and held. Even the memory where I was crying, it was almost like I was like watching myself do this. And I wasn't in the moment sad, but I was looking at this younger version of myself and like watching her be sad and feel these feelings. And I remember like at the end of that part, you helped us sort of realize and weave together like what's the common thread that is amongst all of these memories or these pieces that we've been sort of brought back to. And I had these takeaways or these realizations about me and my views on money and what I was worth and who I was and what I was capable of in terms of living my life. And I had no idea that I had those feelings. And it was just this mind blowing moment of holy shit, I had no idea, A, that those things were even profound memories for me, and B, that I thought these things about myself. And then the part that was so life changing for me was this part at the end where you have this sort of healing piece. So I had my younger self, you had us come and knock on our door. And right now, sometimes I'm like, is this my life? I live in this beautiful house with this crazy view, and it's huge, and it's got all these features like a pool and a theater and all this stuff. I once was like, oh, our dream house. Haha, imagine we could have a house like this. And I'm literally living in it right now. It's such a pinch me moment still sometimes. And I think in that moment, I literally saw myself. I was probably 6 or 8 years old. I saw myself at my front door and walked myself in. And this podcast for another day, but I had a very challenging childhood, I would say. And I just never ever believed that I would have a family like I do, a home like I do. I'd never felt safe and happy and secure like I do now. So to see my younger self and be able to walk myself around my house and show myself at that age, this is our life. This is my husband and our kids. This is what we live now. And this is what's here for us. And I just remember crying. And that experience was so healing for me. And I remember coming out of it and being like, what the fuck just happened? That was not what I expected. I didn't think it would work for me. And then B, I just so easily went back to these memories and had these really wild realizations. And that for me was the very first moment of tapping into what I would say was the very beginning of a next level of consciousness for me, like awakening almost. And I feel like since then I have gone layers and layers and layers deeper. For me, that was my very first experience with it. And I was so caught off guard. And I remember after thinking, I need to work with Jess. I don't even really know her, but I know this work is something I have to do. And I had the exact same sort of financial concerns and worries about how am I going to make it work and just starting my business. And I did it. And I've been working with you now for, I think, over 3 years. And yeah, our work together has just profoundly changed my life. I came in thinking, okay, I want to make some good money in my business. And I know I need to clear these things, these realizations that I've had about what I'm capable of. And to say we have gone deeper doesn't even do it justice. We have gone to every nook and cranny and corner of my life and uprooted it, but in the best way possible. Our work together has made me a better mom, a better partner, a better business owner and leader. We have talked about my marriage, my children, being a mom. We've talked about money. We've talked about worthiness. We've talked about my childhood. There's not a thing we haven't talked about. It's hard for me to put into words how impactful this work has been for me and how life-changing it is, but it's something that I share any chance that I can get because I just believe so strongly in this work, and it's changed my life, and I'm just so grateful for you. So I really wanted to just walk people through our work together and what I've done, and maybe the changes you've seen too, and just be able to share with people so that if I can inspire one person to do this work, that would be my goal.
Yeah. Oh, I'm crying. I have to like gather myself a little bit here because I have tears and yeah, just so much love, Jess, and so much respect, admiration, and appreciation for you. You are a super special person and
Thank you, Jess.
you're a beautiful soul. And it's been so wonderful to know that the work has impacted you that way. I'm really proud of you. I'm just so proud of you. And it's been a gift to serve you. It's been a gift to go into those nooks and crannies with you. And you're brave and you're courageous. And I appreciate you sharing your story because there's a lot of people out there who feel the tug, the pull, the call to change something, and they're afraid that they can't or they don't know how. And hearing your story will hopefully inspire other people to know that it's possible because it is. And as
Mm-hmm.
they can probably also hear, it requires a commitment, you know?
Yeah.
There are no silver bullet solutions, even though the work can be deep and profound and so clarifying and radically transformative in a single moment. It requires your consistent participation in your own healing process, your willingness to look, your willingness to try new things, to integrate the learnings that you have in sessions between sessions. And you do that. You are such a pleasure to work with. You make my job easy because you always come to every session preloaded with things. I've been thinking about this and I've been wondering about this in myself, and I want to talk about this, or I want to celebrate this myself, which is more and more what we're saying these days.
Yeah.
It's really a great thing. And I'm really, to watch you go from where you were to where you are now with such a deep level of awareness about yourself, such attunement to yourself, to watch the lag time between triggers close tighter and tighter and tighter, for you to step more deeply into your spiritual life as well, which has been the most recent, I think, deeper evolution that we've been experiencing, watching you, witnessing you experiencing. It's a testament to what's possible, right? And
Yeah.
to be witness to that is a joy, like I said, for me. And I'm deeply honored, deeply honored.
Thank
Made me
you,
cry. Made
Jess.
me cry.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about where I was, because I think that you make a lot of really good points, and that somebody needs to be ready, and it's not, you're not just showing up, and you are not doing all the work for us. It's very much something that we need to show up and do the work for. And I think where I was at when I met you is I had been in counseling, talk therapy, for a long time, arguably most of my life, and I had a lot of awareness around myself. And well, now I'm like, did I have awareness around my patterns? I had awareness around some patterns, lots of
You
patterns.
did. You
And
did.
I had a lot of awareness around myself and some things I wanted to change and shift. And I
Mhm.
just remember getting to a place and thinking, okay, I need more than just talk therapy. We're talking about it and I can talk about it. Like, there's nothing that's buried anymore, but now what? How do I make the shifts that I want to make deep inside? And that's what you've helped me do on so many levels. And I can look back to when we started working together and see so many big changes. And it's been funny because there's been moments we've been in it and I've been frustrated or crying and been like, I don't feel like it's changing. And then I
Mhm.
look back and I'm like, oh, yeah, it is. It really is. And it can be hard to see in the moment the shifts that you're making. And I know some of the things that I can think about are, when I first started working with you, you do an onboarding session, and I'm sure it's changed over the last however many years. But at one point, one of the questions was, what are you proud of yourself for? And I couldn't answer that. I couldn't think of anything I was proud of myself for. And I just looked back at that version of myself and I was so hard on myself, and I just didn't love myself at all. And I wasn't proud of myself. I didn't think that anything I did was good enough. And I don't even know that I was that aware of that, of how hard I was on myself. And I think about it now and how many conversations we have where I'm like, Jess, I'm so proud I did this and I did
Yeah.
that, or this happened. And that is so ingrained in me now. And that is one shift that's been really wild to see. And then another memory for me that really, really sticks out, this is maybe a year into working together, but I want to tell this story because I don't know that I've shared this really broadly, but anytime I have, it's really been impactful for other people. I think help them not feel so alone. So when I started out my business, I had I like just took off with a bang financially. I had a very great first year and continued to grow. And I remember just spending money. Ultimately, I just was bringing in money, spending it, bringing in money, spending it. And at that point in time, I think I just was sort of sticking my head in the sand and being like, I don't know, business taxes, we'll sort that out later. And at the end of my first year, I had this tax bill that was multi five figures, and I wanted to throw up and die. And I remember calling you and just crying. And
Mhm.
it's funny because that feels like this business tactical mistake, but it ended up being this thing that was so much deeper for me. And we had this session. And at that point in time, I had done hypnotherapy with you quite a few times. And so I feel I could kind of drop into it pretty easily. And you kind of off the cuff did this in one of our coaching calls. And I remember going back to these really vivid memories about money. And what we were able to do in that session was really uncover for me that when I was younger and I didn't feel in control in my life, I got a job very young age. I was 14 years old and I got my very first job and I never stopped working. And that for me was a form of control. It was one area in my life that I could have control over, and nobody had a say. It's my money. I can spend it how I want. And it was this way of making myself feel better, but kind of, because I didn't realize how that had carried forward. And becoming a mom for me, I wanted that more than anything. Like, especially, I can think back to the moments when I was having miscarriage and not getting pregnant and worried I wouldn't have kids. And I've always wanted to be a mom, but I also found that transition to be really challenging, and it really brought up a lot for me. And so, something I didn't realize was that in that beginning of motherhood phases where I was learning the ropes of this new role, in a lot of ways, I felt really out of control in my life. And I sort of turned to that same pattern in a subconscious way. And I wasn't aware of that. And I remember saying to you, it feels like there's this teenage rebellious part of me that's like, whatever, I don't want to look at the books and I'm just going to spend this money because I deserve it. It was that part of me that was just like, nope, I'm going to have control here and this is going to make me happy and I want to do this. And it was just so eye opening, uncovering that pattern for me, because immediately it changed it. I saw it and I couldn't unsee it. And so, anytime from that place on that I had that feeling of, I don't want to look at my books, or I was like, what's going on for me right now? Where in my life am I feeling out of control? And what do I need? How can I love myself? Or how can I listen to this part of me that's clearly not feeling heard? And
Mm-hmm.
so there's been so many examples of that, but that was one that was so life-changing for me, because it's really easy to look at yourself in those types of situations and be like, "Oh, I made a mistake and I didn't know about taxes and I just spent my money." But there's usually something deeper going on. For me, like there really was with that. Like, that spun me out and I had a lot of like, "Oh my god, am I going to pay this?" And it brought up a lot of like fear and anxiety, and I just knew I'd worked with you long enough that I just knew how, when we're in that place of like fear and anxiety and just this like place that doesn't feel good, that can really like run us and run our, decisions and how we show up and our energy and impact our business and our relationships. And I didn't want that anymore for myself. So that was very difficult work to do, but really life changing. And I think has just untangled and rewoven a better pattern for me around money ever since then. So that's just been amazing.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that story. I remember that day. I remember that session, even because we don't typically do hypnosis on the spot like that. But I was like, I feel we just need to go there. And we did. And I remember that. I remember those scenes and that experience that you had. And I also remember this experience around that, which was reframing your relationship, because there was a lot of shame that you were holding. There was fear and a lot of shame. But when we shed a light on these things, we can bring compassion to ourselves. And when we have compassion for ourselves, then there's a door that's open to more choicefulness. Now we can start to take action and to see possibilities and make new decisions rooted from this thing that, I teach about and talk about, which is the healthy self, which I learned from my mentors. So that is what I really think happened that day, is you were able to bring your healthy self back online instead of just being trapped in this shame spiral that you were really in, gripping fear at the time. And we talked about reframing the tax debt as an opportunity, and we also talked about reframing it as a celebration. Wow, you made that much money in your business, that you accumulated that much taxes.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
And to see it like, okay, you learned a lesson here. It's okay, you learned a lesson,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that example is a really good one of how
Yeah.
we have these parts of us that we don't realize are running the show. And it's not until something significant happens that causes us to slow down and be forced to take a look at it. You can either ignore it, which is what you were talking about, and just push it to the side and say, whatever, it's not a big deal. I don't want to deal with it. Or you can say, well, let me get curious and see why. What's the reason underneath this? And that's what you did. It has changed your relationship with money in a really big way. You've moved more into what I call an attitude of abundance versus an attitude of scarcity. And it doesn't mean, by the way, that it doesn't get triggered ever. It absolutely does, but it's a difference in the response to it. It's being in the seat of power now
Yeah.
instead of feeling helpless to your emotions and helpless to your mind chatter. Now you have more skills and tools to change the way you're feeling and to change the way you're thinking so that you can change the way you behave. That
Yeah.
that takes time and practice, but you've really done that. And it's been wonderful to watch you step into that space.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. And I know
Yeah.
another really big one for me too has been just the ability to slow down and not overwork. And I think that has maybe been
What? You?
I know that has like maybe been the one that we have
Yeah.
worked the longest on.
Yeah.
And I think that I know a lot of listeners will really resonate with that. Talk particularly to a lot of women entrepreneurs that are either my friends or in my circle online. And it's so common that we will do the pattern of wake up, open the laptop, work all day, shut it, exhausted, rinse, repeat, and not make time for ourselves, especially as mothers. And I know how hard that was for me to repattern and that I'm still not perfect at it. I think that I'd love to talk about that a little bit because I see so many things online that just really bother me that it's like, you just don't have enough discipline or you just need to stick to the habit, and if you want it bad enough you'll just do it. And now that I know what I know that that's not true, and it really actually just contributes to the shame that people feel when they behave that way, and it doesn't help anybody. Because I think working with you, I realized what was underneath all that and what was driving me to repeat those patterns every day of, okay, my worth is tied to my output and I can't rest. And it was so hard for me to even take a break for lunch and step away from my laptop or go have a workout. And I remember you assigning me homework of just put time in your calendar for fucking nothing. And it wasn't like, you're not going to go be productive, you're not going to go get your steps in, like, you're not, this isn't for you to go like self-care that's like another thing on your to-do list. It's like the practice of asking myself, like, what do I need right now and what's going to fill my cup, and just allowing myself to have like play and pleasure in my life. And I think there's two things I want to say that have been so important about that with me is, number one, I was in this pattern of burning myself out and couldn't seem to break that cycle. And then number two, it was also getting in the way of my goals because there was a lot of things that I've wanted to do in my business that required structure or frameworks, but I had gotten to this place where I was so rebellious against it. No, I don't want to time block to do content and I don't want to do this. I was just in this place of I don't want any more structure because I didn't have any whatever freedom, fluidity, play, like spaciousness in my life. Oh, I'm just working so hard and burning myself, but there's such a ripple effect on your business, your life. It was affecting how I was showing up. You know, my kids would come home and I felt like a squeezed orange with no juice left. And I was so impatient and I couldn't be the mom I wanted to be. I couldn't be the partner I wanted to be because I was pouring it all out into work to be like, I can do this and I'm worthy and I'm going to prove myself and I belong and I'm enough. And I just see that pattern so much. So I'd love to talk about that a little bit more and dig into like, how do people unlock that? What's going on there?
Yeah, I think that it depends on everybody has a different come from, a starting point that it begins from, and different ways that it manifests, right? And what I do is because I'm a root cause person, right? My some people would call it depth psychology, which is trying to get to the underlying reason. You know, a lot of people try to treat the symptoms of something, but they're not actually getting to the what I call dis-ease that's underneath the thing that's going to cause that symptom to repeat and repeat and repeat, which
Mm-hmm.
feels like you're playing whack-a-mole with this problem. It's why people often turns to things like productivity tools and systems, and they get some relief for a while, but then they find themselves back in the same trap, which is what you were experiencing too. We did a couple of hypnosis sessions on it as well from different angles. And what I think that it really comes down to is getting clear about what is the driving force behind your need for consistent and constant action. What's the belief that you have that you fear will become true about you if you rest?
Mm-hmm.
What's the fear that comes alive in the dark of the night when you don't feel as though you're doing enough or getting more done or doing it right? It's asking yourself, you've got to pick up the rock and look underneath and start to see, like, what's the thing that's in the shadow? We call this shadow work. What's the thing that's in the dark that I'm not necessarily sensing and feeling every single day, but might be influencing the way that I think, feel, and act every single day? And so getting curious is the first thing, to start to ask yourself, well, what if this problem was a rock and I were to pick it up and I were to look underneath? what might it be? And then if you look at that and you go, well, what might be causing that to happen? And you just keep asking that question. It's kind of like digging under the dirt. With every question, it's another scoop, and you get
Mm-hmm.
farther and farther and farther down until you get to the root of the thing. And sometimes you can do that yourself, and sometimes you need somebody outside of you to be able to ask you the questions and to be able to invite you to go a little bit deeper, because you think you've touched it, but it's actually another level below that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Getting to this deeper need that you have that you're afraid won't get met, or getting back to a story that you picked up about yourself or the world around you as a result of an experience you had when you were a child, or something that traumatic that may have happened to you. So there's many different ways that we end up, limiting ourselves. My process, and that I like to work through with my clients, is doing that deeper work to figure out. And look, it doesn't always take 17 sessions or 17 years or 17 weeks. Sometimes it takes 17 seconds to get down
Mm-hmm.
to that place. But once you hit it, like you said, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
Once you know what it is, you can't unsee it. And so I find this, I do a lot of work on productivity. I do a lot of large group hypnosis stuff around productivity, because I work with what I call high performing seekers. There are people who are wanting to be at the top of their game in whatever they do, whether that's being a stay at home mom, or running your own business, or being the best middle manager at a company, whatever that might be, right? They're at that place of wanting to reach the next level, and they're curious about themselves at the same time, because you see some people who have the drive to do more and to be the best, but who don't have that self-reflective or that curiosity that's naturally within them to know more about themselves and to understand themselves. So it's the combination of those two things are the people that I work with, like you, right? So it's that willingness to look that's the first step. It's that willingness to slow down enough, getting curious about yourself, looking more deeply inward at yourself is the first step of the process. It's going beyond just the symptoms and asking yourself, what's underneath the rock?
I love that. And I want to ask you something I know the answer to, but I want to hear what you're going to say, because I know we've talked about this. So, when we realize these things, or when we are aware of these subconscious patterns, what does it look like? Is the goal to fix them and make them changed and gone?
Yeah, it's there's a common belief that we're supposed to eradicate these things from our
Mm-hmm.
lives, that there's something bad and evil in a way, and that we need to extract them forever and permanently make them gone. The way that I look at it is, we want to understand them, we want to know them, we want to learn how to relate to these aspects of ourselves. And then our intention is to say, I see you. I get that that part of me is there, that like has a rebellious teenage spirit from the times in my life where I felt deeply out of control as a kid. Like, I get you. And I'm in charge now. There's a different part of me in charge now. And I love you. I love all the things that you did to try to keep me safe and to help me have control and to help me make money and do all of those things. But that way isn't working for me anymore. This part, the rebellious part, and you and I, we need to find a new way to do this together. So how do we
Mm-hmm.
do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
We call that an internal family systems work, which is, it's parts work. It's finding this part, loving this part, having compassion, understanding, and gratitude for this part and all the things that it did for us in our life. And then helping it find a new job, right? A new way to work in your inner world instead
Mm-hmm.
of this sabotaging way. And at the same time, cultivating and bringing back parts of ourselves that we've pushed away, because that one part, we call it our survivor self. Your survivor self is this part that kind of came online between the age of 2 and 11, which is, you kind of got puffed up when something tough happened. And it may not
Mm-hmm.
even be a big capital T trauma. It may have been something small that happened, but these parts come online. It's like, hey, I'm here to make sure that this thing never happens to you again. And then we have our, what we call healthy self, which you heard me reference earlier. And that's the whole complete part of us, the one that is your higher self, is another term that people will use to describe it. It's this version of you that has this level of conscious awareness, that's a witness to all things, that has a deep trust, that feels really safe, that's full of coming from a loving or empowered place. It's not that
Mm-hmm.
that part can't be fierce. It may even have anger in it at times, but it's about coming from this loving place, this whole place. while we're, learning about these aspects of ourselves that maybe aren't serving us anymore, we're also learning about this healthy self. And we call that, for you, we call it future Jess,
Yeah.
right? But it's this version of you that is embodying all of these positive aspects. And we
Hmm.
bring that part online too. And we start to learn how to let that part of us lead more and to trust that it's capable of leading more. And that takes a little bit of time, right? As you've experienced, of
Yeah.
learning how to let those two change roles a bit. But it's part of what we call the work, right? And
Yeah.
it's really, really beautiful, and it's very, very, very powerful to do. And it requires some courage and some guts to do.
Hmm.
But I think that when people do that, you rise in a level, like you said, of consciousness. There's like a
Hmm.
new level of relating to yourself in the world, a new awakened understanding of
Hmm.
how your life really works and your responsibility in your life.
Yeah.
And you do feel more response able, right? You feel more able to respond instead of hapless or pushed by the winds of whatever fleeting event happens outside of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's like such a great metaphor, because I do remember this was way before I met you. I was in my 20s, and it was when I met Craig, and I had a counselor in Vancouver at the time. And I remember learning about triggers from her. And
Mm.
she was talking about how you have the ability to control your reactions. And I was like, I don't. Like, no, no, that is not. That is not how it happens. Something happens, and I remember telling her, then I go crazy. And she was the first person who I learned, no, no, you can learn to create space between action and reaction. It's a learned habit. And it's taken me a very long time. But that's been a lot of work that we've done together, is being aware of, okay, this thing is happening. I'm feeling something in my body. What is this? What's going on in there? And then how do I want to react? Instead of what would happen before was like, action reaction, and those things were just driving my life. Oh, I'm feeling rejected. Okay, no, I'm going to reject you first. Or I don't feel like I belong here. I'm going to shrink back. Like, just all these things that were really impacting how I showed up in every facet of my life and business that I just didn't think I had control over, but I've now learned how to do that in a lot of ways. Another like really cool thing I've learned from you too is, and it's funny to look back now, it was really this survivor self of me that was driving even when we started working together. And probably a lot of like the first year of, I just had this belief that there was something inherently wrong with me and I didn't belong. And so a lot of the first year or so of working with you, it was, okay, let's fix me, because I'm broken and I have all these beliefs that are driving me and I don't feel worthy, and I'm showing up in all these ways that I don't like. So let's fix me. And I just remember getting to a place with you. I've probably been here a few times where I've been crying and been like, Jess, why are we back here again? This is painful. And I thought I dealt with this. And I thought we closed the box and tied a ribbon and made that go away. And that was such an interesting learning for me, was that this is always the work of just continuing to look at ourselves and understand what's going on. And then B, that we're not trying to fix ourselves, and we're not trying to like shun those parts of ourselves or change them or make them go away, because that's actually just like the opposite of what we want to do. And so me learning to recognize and see those parts and like love on them and listen to them, but then also say, no, no, my healthy self is going to be in control now. Such a big unlock for me has been seeing those parts and being grateful for them, instead of being like, okay, no, you're done and goodbye and I reject you, because I realized that's rejecting a part of me, and that those parts have done really great things for me and can continue to do great things for me if I can give them a new role. And then also that I've also learned that when I completely reject them and I'm like, no, and they're not heard, they kick and scream louder. And so that's just been wild for me to be able to kind of pay attention to them, love them, give them space. And then even recently, there was situations that have come up with me where the survivor self has taken over in a lot of ways. And it's been almost just this like learning of I guess, the balance between showing that part of me love and attention and saying, I see you, and that must have been hard and scary. And I can see you feel this way, but we're okay now. And I think that something that we were talking about in a recent session was just how automatic it can be to default into these patterns that feel safe and normal. This is going to happen or that, or the fear or the scarcity side of things. And just allow my survivor self to have, I was talking to you about, have the mic and be leading and making decisions and talking and really taking up a lot of space. And I was in this place of struggling between how do I hear this part, but then also know when it's time for Healthy Jess to come online and drive. And we've spent a lot of time on that. And it's something that's really solidified for me this year around I see you and I feel you and I hear you and thank you. And now we're passing the mic to Healthy Jess. And just being aware of those patterns and those thoughts have been so life-changing for me.
I'm curious because one thing that sometimes people struggle with when they're hearing these kinds of conversation is like, well, yeah, but how does this actually impact the bottom line? Like my ability to make money or, have a better relationship or to change my weight or my diet or whatever. I would be curious to know what you see as like the tangible results, some of the tangible results that you've gotten from understanding these parts of yourself, learning how to do this work, healing yourself. And to be fair too, yes, this is a big part of the work, and we also do a lot of stuff that's just around like making commitments, taking actions,
Oh,
like
totally.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm glad you asked that because there's been, outside of all of the mindset pieces, there's been massive tangible results that I've seen from working with you. I mean, where do I start? I grew my business to six figures in 6 months. I hit $1 million in revenue last year. I've worked with some very, very well known, famous creators in my space, in my niche, and been able to show up with confidence and feel like I belong in the room. I've had confidence. Well, I remember when I started with you being like, oh, I wish I could make social media content and be on video, but I'm not that kind of person. Well, hi, I'm on video right now making a podcast and just recorded content yesterday on video. So me being able to step into confidence and create content to attract customers, to show up. I show up differently to my clients, even in how I speak to them and how I, show up as a leader in their business, which gets them better results and allows me to work with them in a better way because I'm not hiding behind trying to be liked or I've been able to find this confidence and really step into myself, which has allowed me to be successful. So that's the business side. I mean, I've also put up a lot of boundaries around business. I've also created a business now where I'm not overworking, I'm not undercharging. I love what I've created with my business. And so all of that I really credit to mindset work. It sounds like I'm simplifying it, but I wouldn't be who I am without the work we've done. And I wouldn't be able to have the business I have and work with the clients I have and charge the rates I charge and all of these things if I didn't have like the mindset that I have and the confidence that I have, because it's taken a lot to, if I think back to the beginning, even like and kind of some of the lessons I had around one of my first big clients, I kind of fucked it up because I was coming from a place of like not feeling worthy and not standing for what I believed. And so that ultimately made me lose the client. So being able to like recognize and change those patterns has just made massive impacts. And then it's also impacted how I've showed up as a mom and allowed me to have better relationships with my kids because I'm taking care of myself and I'm having conversations with them and sort of teaching them the skills that I'm learning now, which is amazing, to be 4 and 6 years old and be able to start learning some of this stuff and grow up with that. And then it's also really impacted my marriage in good ways and hard ways, just having the tough conversations. And I think that in being able to step into more of myself and more of my truth and use my voice has propelled growth in my relationship with my husband and sort of propelled growth within him. And I can't think of an area of my life that there hasn't been tangible impact in when with us working together. I'm probably forgetting some. You probably may remember, but
No, I think that that's great. The reason why I wanted you to share it is because sometimes people think this stuff is fluffy and
yeah.
it's woo woo, it's fluffy, it's soft skills, as they call it in the business world. And I have another company, by the way, which is called Proactive Conversations. And I teach this methodology, a different methodology inside businesses. It's based on nonviolent communication, which you've also studied and practiced and it helps you in speaking your truth. But this idea that these things are soft, right? That it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't actually make a difference, and this perception that we have of sitting in a therapist chair and talking about our shit and then leaving and feeling like nothing changes. It's
Mm.
not what we're talking about here.
No, no.
It's also, it's a testament to you. Again, I'm going to go back to say that you get out what you put in, right? So I know I just went to a medicine retreat last week in South Dakota, and it's funny because I do this work and I'm normally the one holding space for people. And I got there, and at first I was exhausted and I was kind of resisting the process and feeling a little bit judgy almost of the container. And it's my best friend, by the way, who's hosting it, who's one of the most incredible facilitators and coaches and healers who I have the most respect for, and we co-facilitate all the time. I was just like, why did I come here? This is like so much time, and was having this thing, and I realized the second morning I woke up and I started doing this process that they were taking us through, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. I can only take myself as deep as I'm willing to allow myself to go. Mm-hmm. I'm responsible for what I get out of this. I'm responsible for being available to the change. I'm responsible for feeling the feelings that are hard to feel. Like, that's my choice. Mm-hmm. So I leaned in, and then the weekend ended up becoming incredible. So I just want to say that this work, even for people who do it all the time, and I would say you're advanced now. You're in an advanced state. Yeah, you're definitely no longer a beginner in this work. You're moving into the advanced levels. And as you advance, it's even still an invitation to, what can I learn about myself? And then seeing that, I think that when you start to do this stuff and you start to really lean into learning about yourself and healing these things and stepping into the next level versions of yourself, you see the impact that it has on everything. People come to me because they want to be a better leader, or they come to me because they want to be more productive, or they come to me because they want to lose weight, or whatever the thing is. Everything that changes. It's a total transformation, which is why most of my clients, you, work with me for many years. The average client now stays with me for about 2.5 to 3 years to 5 years. And I think it's because they see the work, they're going on a journey, and they see the impact that it has. So I just really think it's important to say, this isn't just woo-woo fluffy bullshit. This has an impact on the bottom line of your life.
Yeah.
In every aspect of your life,
Absolutely. And it is funny because me then, a few years ago, there's nothing woo-woo about my life. I feel in my masculine energy, and just, I didn't believe in any of this, like even my mindset going into the hypnosis. And I too saw this work as fluffy and sort of nice to have. And I look back and I just know I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't have had the success in my business. I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't have the relationships in my life. There's so many incredibly tangible pieces that have come from this work. And now that I've been doing this for so long, I see literally everything roots back to it. And I can see it in clients I work with. I can see it in other people that come into my life through work or through friends, and just the ways in which they're getting in their own way, halting their business growth, creating problems for themselves and their lives. And really everything comes down to all of this work. Like you truly, like, if you want something and you're feeling like you're spinning your wheels, chances are it's all of this stuff that's in your way.
Yeah, absolutely. Where you are right now, which is what you got, what you wanted, and now it's, well, what's next?
Yeah.
Right? It's what got me here won't get me there, right? And that's why you're up leveling, and you're realizing that the hustle and the grind culture isn't what's going to allow you to have the next level vision of your life, because you want to be a owner of multiple businesses, not just one. So that's not going to fly when I have multiple companies one day. I can't do it like this, right? Yeah. So it's this constant invitation, I think. And I'm reminded of, who Layla, I think, is Hermosi, Alex Hermosi. Not that they weren't before, but they're having a moment right now. And she put up a post the other day that said that she lost a multi-million-dollar deal because she got defensive in a meeting.
I saw that. Yeah.
And so, the reason why I bring that up is that defensiveness was rooted in something deeper in her subconscious.
Yeah.
And without having the full awareness of what that was and having worked that through in her life, it showed up in a meeting and it cost her a crap ton of money. And she had to go back to that client, apologize, eat crow, which was the right thing to do, and took guts too, by the way. But that could have been avoided if this other thing had been maybe explored earlier, or maybe in that moment she could have stopped herself, seen it happening. Hold on, guys, I'm getting you know what, let me take a pause. And, you know, my husband brought into my life this quote from Viktor Frankl, which you and I have worked around too, which is between stimulus. And by the way, Viktor Frankl is a Holocaust survivor and a psychotherapist, you know, lived in the most deplorable conditions in the Holocaust. But he has this quote that says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space, we have our choice, our power to choose. And in that choice lies our growth and our freedom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's this idea that you get to be response able. You can practice the pause. But if you're not aware of what's happening in your inner world, if you don't know the landscape where your little landmines are hidden, what causes them to pop open, what your responses might be when they're struck or hit, and
Mm-hmm.
then what your strategies are to minimize the impact of that or to maybe stop it from having a larger blast radius, then you'll walk into these situations in life, professionally or personally, step on those little landmines and then blow shit up
Yeah.
unknowingly, unconsciously, and then
Mm-hmm.
be confused and frustrated that it
Yeah.
continues to happen and feel disheartened perhaps, or you blame other people
Yeah.
and you don't take responsibility for it yourself. So yeah, this is high level leadership that we're talking about, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
what the high level conscious leadership looks like. And
Yeah.
I do believe that there's a call for conscious leadership today. We've had a lot of unconscious leadership. There is a
Mm-hmm.
lot of unconscious leadership around us right now. And to be a conscious leader means to do this deeper work so that you can lead from your heart,
Yeah.
right? You can lead from a place of goodness. And that starts with knowing your own goodness and trusting in that, and then helping other people find it, believe it, and experience it themselves. It doesn't matter whether you're running a laundromat, as this one woman I met last week, and she has 6 businesses, including a laundromat she recently bought. Or if you're running a CMO school, you know, your responsibility as a leader is ultimately to be an example
Yeah.
and to help other people rise up and to solve problems for people through your business and
Yeah.
to make their lives better. So if you can do that for yourself, then you can pay that forward to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think something within that too is that I remember you telling me, your subconscious can't hold two things to be true at the same time. And I think that mindset work, inner work, it's not new now. Lots of people are doing it, dabbling it, reading books, listening to podcasts. But I think that for me, a big shift in working with you is that I had kind of started looking at some of that stuff and been, okay, I know I'm worthy. I believe this. But it's just that depth. Did I really believe that at my core? When
Mm,
I was put in certain situations energetically, what did people feel from me? And that's been the work, is not just in my head cerebral, but in my body and in my subconscious, what is driving me. And
mm,
that's been the root of the change, because I could believe all the things I want in my head and have these beautiful posters up and I believe whatever, I'm going to go do this, but I needed to like really believe and understand and make some shifts internally to step
mm.
into like who I was meant to be and really be able to see those results in my business and in my life.
Yeah, I love that. I always say you go from a therapist that I worked with for a while said this, and I love it. You go from knowing it to knowing it, like knowing it with
Ah,
your head to knowing it with your heart.
I
And
love
that
that.
transition, it takes time. There's a lot of blockages that are in the way from making that happen. But once you get through it, and sometimes it, like I said, it happens in 17 seconds, and sometimes it's 17 days, and sometimes it's 17 weeks. And for some of us, it's 17 years or 17 lifetimes. But
Yeah.
once you get there, you know, you drop into that place of knowing with your head and to going to knowing with your heart. That's when you're embodying the difference. And
Mm-hmm.
the truth is that the change lives in your body. It lives in your nervous system. That's why we do somatic work. That's what we've done so much, learning how to feel the feelings in your body and releasing and shaking and all these other things that we practice, because your body is the home, right? And that's where your deepest truth lies. It's where your deepest pain lies. It's all stuck here in the body. So that's why learning how to go from your head to your heart and really knowing something, like knowing, believing it,
Yeah.
is the key.
Absolutely. Well,
Mhm.
Jess, I feel like I could talk to you all day about this,
Of
but we've
course.
already gone over time, and thank you so much. If people are interested in figuring out or learning a little bit more about you and what you do, where can they find you?
Yeah, so a few different ways. You can go to my website, jessgeist.com. I think jessicageist.com. By the way, the Geist thing, I was married and divorced and remarried, and my old married name was Geist, and that's what I built my business under. So SEO gods have trapped me into that name.
Damn marketing.
Damn marketing. I wonder if I only knew someone who could help me with that.
We'll put your URL in the show notes. So when and if it changes, we'll put it there
Yeah,
and
you
people
can
can
find
find
me
it.
there. You can also find me. You can just email me, Jess at Jess Geist. I love that. I like just personal. I keep a very small, intimate roster of private clients these days, and I love to have deep, intimate connections with people and with my clients. So I would love to just connect with you in that space too. You can also check out my hypnosis membership platform, which is called Amplify, and that's amplifymembership.com. It's a great way to get an entree into the work. My methodology that Jess and I have been talking about is called subconscious harmonics. It blends conscious coaching work and subconscious reprogramming. And that membership is a wonderful way to get introduced to the work. There's over 50 plus hypnotic recordings there. We have monthly group coaching calls, accountability, listening journeys every month. So it's a really nice way to start the path. And if you feel called to deepen the work, you can always reach out to me to talk about doing some private one-on-one sessions. Those are just a few ways you can find me.
Great. Thank you, Jess. And thank you so much. I mean, really, for everything. I'm so, so grateful that you came into my life and for our work together. And I just have so much respect and love and all of the things for you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jess. The feeling is so, so mutual. And I love you too. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be on your podcast. Thank you for having me.
So, if you're building a fractional CMO business and you don't want to waste years figuring it out the hard way, Fractional CMO School is open for enrollment and we'll give you the step-by-step roadmap that I used to build my business to 6 figures in 6 months and then $1 million per year with a small team of 2. There's expert coaching, one-on-one support, and whether you are an aspiring fractional CMO or you're growing, you're trying to figure out how to scale your team or do the role in a way that doesn't lead to burnout, it is a great fit for you. And you can learn more at thecmooffice.com. If you love this episode today, here is what I would love from you. Take 30 seconds to rate and review the show. It helps more marketers and CMOs find this content. Hit follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're going to implement any of this or you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out in my DMs on Instagram. I would love to support you. And thank you for listening. I will see you next week.